Hello, good evening and welcome to Upfront. My name is Kojo Youngson. So, 78% of promises delivered. Has the city really performed better in the past 3 years than it did in the previous government? Are we really enjoying a better managed economy than before? Some people are taking all of this with a pinch of salt, but of course, numbers don't lie, right? Well, we'll be finding out today from the man who advises the economic guru on economics, right here on Upfront, after these. Celebrating 25 years of media excellence, this is Upfront. My name is Kojo Youngson. It's a pleasure to be with you once again. Now, there are some who are taking the Vice President's Kumasi Success Declaration with a pinch of salt. Are you one of them? Well, let me refresh your memory on what he said at Tuesday's town hall meeting in Kumasi.
388 promises in our manifesto. The most recent validation exercise that we undertook at the end of January 2019 shows that we have either delivered or we are delivering on 78% of our promises. We have either delivered or we are delivering on 78% of our promises. Of course, this 78% is an aggregate figure. You can go to the sectoral breakdown which we provide to show you what we are doing for each sector. How has the city performed under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the last 3 years? The answer is very simple. You look at this table, which looks at the average rate of depreciation of the city since 1992. Between 1993 and 1996, first term of the Fourth Republic, the average rate of depreciation of the city was 27.95%. 97 to 2000, 25.19%. 2001 to 2004, we drastically reduced it under President Kufuor to 11.4%, and 2005 to 2008, the second term, to 6.7%. 2009 to 2012, 10.9%. Under the NDC government of 2013 to 2016, it was 18%. Under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, it is, for the first 3 years, 8.7%. So, you see from this table that the city exchange rate under the MPP from 2017 to 2019 is twice as stable as it was under the NDC from 2013 to 2016. We have outperformed the NDC in virtually every sphere of the economy. I mean every sphere. We have appropriately combined economic theory as taught in our textbooks with the collective experience of the economic management team and cabinet under the leadership of the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in the management of the economy. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant who, after qualifying, decides not to use what they learned in school? Say, forget about everything you learned in the textbooks when you are actually practicing. Can you imagine that? Unfortunately, if you don't take your time and read and understand your textbooks in a subject like economics, you will end up mismanaging the economy with a confirmed economic management techniques. I have no doubt that the NDC will come out and challenge what I have said here today. But when they come out, just ask them to bring contrary data. They shouldn't just talk. They should come with contrary data. I would like to say that even though we have made a solid start, and it is a start, in our 3 years in office, we are not yet where we want Ghana to be. We have done a lot. We've established the Zongo Development Fund and all of that. Major things. But we are not yet where we want to be. We still have more to do. This year has been designated by the President as the year of roads, and the country will soon see evidence of this. The question that we faced when we tried to implement this free SHS policy, the question that we faced was, if we don't have enough infrastructure, how can we tell whose child should stay at home and whose child should go to school? Who should stay at home? In response to this challenge, we introduced the innovative double-track system as a temporary solution to the problem while we construct new schools. The thinking here with the double-track system is very similar to how our churches have the first service and the second service and the third service with the same building. Because the church has been built, but the people are many. So all of them want to come and hear the word of God on Sunday. So should we say to people, I am at Tinafie, or can we say, you come for first service, you come for second service, you come for third service, and all of you will hear the word of God? So this is our innovative solution and a temporary solution to a problem that we face. We'll say, okay, let's leverage our existing schools. Some people will come at one time, go home, and another set will come. We are not saying this is how it's going to be, but this is the temporary solution whilst we build more and more schools to do this.
Yeah. Now, the reactions have come from all possible quarters, including, of course, the opposition NDC. Here's their communications officer, Sami Jimfi, speaking to Paul Adomotre on Metro TV's Good Evening Ghana.
The Vice President Bawumia today said that this government is the first government under the Fourth Republic which has reduced the cost of electricity. This is what he said. Paul, that is a lie. Because on the 10th of November 2013, the government of President Mahama reduced electricity tariff by 25%. The story was published by Mind Your Online. I have it in my hand. I came with a hard copy for the benefit of yourself and our viewers. The headline is Electricity Tariff Reduced by 25%.
I can see that clearly.
Quite apart from that, in June 2015...
for the avoidance of doubt.
Yes.
Cameron, can you focus on that?
Yes.
Okay, so there it is, viewers. You can see it. It says electricity tariff reduced by... okay, so
by 25%.
Now you can see on the top left of the paper is Joy Online, the source of the story, so that you can follow Sami through the analysis.
Yes.
Okay.
So quite apart from that, in June 2015...
So this fact, Dr. Bawumia said this MPP government is the first government in the Fourth Republic is not correct.
It should tell you how dishonest, how deceitful the current vice president we have is. The man is allergic to truth.
You are going to give me 5.
He can't just speak the truth, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you.
Let's see a few.
You see, and that is why he has lost his credibility. That is why he has become an object of local and international ridicule. Nobody takes him serious in this country again, because this is a vice president who must be speaking and exhibiting candor, sobriety, you know, and all that, spewing blatant lies that his government is the first government to have reduced the cost of electricity. I've just demonstrated that to you that it is not true. Apart from the fact that in November 2013, electricity tariffs were reduced by 25%. In June 2015, we had another reduction in electricity tariff, a reduction of 10% in June 2015. Now, I heard him today.
Clearly,
I heard him today talking about electricity and what they have done and all that. Paul, the simple question we must ask ourselves is that, has President Akufo-Addo kept his promise to the people of this country that if elected, he was going to ensure that we pay lower electricity tariffs? The electricity tariffs we are paying today, we are all electricity consumers. Is it cheaper than it was in 2016? The answer is a big no. We are paying more for electricity today than we were paying in 2016. And you see, he asked us to subject his analysis today or his speech today to factual, analysis. And that is what I intend to do, because I came with the tariff reckoner for July 2016, when President Mahama was in office. And you can see from this tariff reckoner that under President Mahama, for every 150 units that a residential, consumer bought, 150 units of power, that consumer paid 88 Ghana cedis for 150 units of power. Today, if you are buying the same 150 units of power as a residential consumer, you'll be paying 93 Ghana cedis. That is an increment.
From 88 to 93.
Yes, that is not cheaper.
It's
So
not cheaper, no.
with all the rhetorics, with all the noise, Ghanaians are still paying more in this is the electricity tariff reckoner for 1st October 2019. And you can check that for yourself. Okay. I'm speaking based on facts here.
Yeah.
So the man lied. Now, let's also ask ourselves, how has this government improved access to electricity? Apart from the fact that I'm still on electricity, because we need to expose them. He's lied about the fact that they are the only government, this is the only government which has reduced electricity tariffs. He's lied about the fact that the cost of electricity today is cheaper as compared to what it used to be in 2016. And I'm bringing in another matter, that what has been their contribution to electricity expansion since they assumed office 3 years ago? President Mahama, or the NDC, expanded electricity coverage from 52% to 83%. Paul, you know that.
I can believe that, but I know that because a lot of time was spent
83%
in developing new IPPs.
In 8 years, cumulatively, we expanded electricity coverage, nationwide.
Right, so that's a little bit of what Sami Gyamfi had to say in response to the Vice President's comments. Right, let's get to the meat of it. Our guest is Dr. Gideon Boako. He's the Vice President's spokesperson and technical advisor. He'll help us deconstruct the Kumasi presentation, separate fact from propaganda and so forth. Good evening, Doc. Very nice to see you.
Good evening, and nice to see you also.
All right, now let's get straight to it. Obviously, there was a lot said by the Vice President. We don't want to go over all of it. We heard him clearly, but we want to understand what your responses will be to some of the holes people are attempting to poke in what he said. And of course, we'll start with Sami Gyamfi, who spoke at length. But he started with this issue of electricity, and he suggested that there are factual inaccuracies in what the Vice President said. First of all, he points to the claim that they are the first government to reduce tariffs, and he says, well, it's happened before under Mahama. Then he also says that, the tariffs are actually more expensive now than they were under Mahama, so the promise to reduce tariffs has not been achieved. How do you respond?
Thank you very much, and let me say good evening to our viewers and our listeners. I must say we appreciate the reaction from Ghanaians following the Vice President's delivery at the town hall meeting. Of course, this town hall meeting was designed to give the Ghanaian people the opportunity to assess government and also to have access to some base data upon which they could draw their own conclusions on the performance of government. And I must commend government and the president for leading this charge, because this appears to be the first time that any government within our politics has availed himself to the people of Ghana to say, scrutinize me based on what I refer to as my own assessment of the promise I made to the people of Ghana. It's quite novel. And I think in deepening our democratic ethos and ensuring that we have participatory democracy, this is the way to go. In times past, some government felt that an attempt to do that and also compare records signify an exercise in mediocrity. This president does not believe in that. He thinks that we must give the people opportunity to assess us because power emanates from them, and we must account to them. Yes, following the town hall meeting, by and large, I can see very positive reviews of the town hall meeting, both in Ghana and across the borders of this country. Of course, the political actors in the opposition side would say whatever they want to say, and sometimes I get worried that when people like Dr. Bawumia speaks, I'm not saying he's the repository of knowledge, I'm not saying he's a superhuman, but when he speaks, somebody who knows his onions and knows exactly what he says, people should be careful in reacting to them, and that's exactly the mistake Sami Jamfi and co are doing. First and foremost, they say that the vice president said President Akufo-Addo's government is the only government that has reduced electricity tariffs in absolute terms, and he is lying, of course. Look at the pedigree of the vice president, the kind of damage he does to them politically. It's not surprising that any time he speaks, they will come out to use words like a liar and all kinds of unpalatable words and languages on him. What I want them to understand is that the vice president, being an economist, knows his diction. He said, and let me quote exactly what he said. He said that figure 8 shows that there has been an absolute decline in electricity prices. Our government is the first government in the history of the Fourth Republic that has reduced electricity prices in absolute terms. There's an economist saying he knows the difference between relative change, relative percentage change, and absolute percentage change. Okay? So people like Sami Jamfi should not rush to respond to him the way they did. The vice president did not talk about relative percentage. He said that this government is the first government to have reduced electricity prices in absolute terms. And that is true. The fact that you may have had electricity price increase in a year and a reduction thereof does not necessarily mean that there has been an absolute reduction. If the increase was more than the reduction, definitely the net will be an increase. But if the increase is less than the reduction, then in absolute terms, in that net terms, you would have a reduction. That is what the vice president was talking about. And the data he put out supports exactly what he was saying, because he had said that if you look at the data, in 2010, the NDC increased electricity prices by 8 to 9%, in 2011 by 10%, in 2013 by 78%, in 2014 by 28%, in 2015 by 59%, in 2018, 2016 no, 2017 0, in 2018 reduced by 22%, in 2019 11.17%. If you look at the 2018 figure, it does not mean the reduction was just 22%, but there was an increase and there was a reduction, and the reduction far outweighed the increase. So when you net it, the difference between the increase and the reduction is what gives you the absolute figure of 22% reduction. So what Sami Jamfi is referring to cannot be in net terms a reduction. Because if he says they had increased by a certain margin and reduced by a certain margin, if the increase is more than the decrease, you end up having an increase. And that is why the vice president was very careful in the choice of his words as an economist to say that what I'm talking about is absolute percentage change and not relative percentage change. But of course, when you complain that they either don't read, or when they read, they don't pay attention to the letters, then they complain. But this is a clear demonstration of a team or a group of people who lack the capacity to discern into words and sentences when they are constructed carefully by an economist. They should just take their time and read between what Dr. Bawumia says before responding to him. So, I mean, this argument they are making that, oh, he's a liar, and they just didn't understand the words used by the vice president. Every economist understands the difference between absolute percentage change and relative percentage change. They are not the same.
All right. But how do you respond to the comparison he does with the July 2016 cost of 150 units of electricity, which was at 88 Ghana cedis, compared to 93 Ghana cedis in October 2019.
That is also in football parlance what my good friend Gary R. Smith and co will say, on goal. They just got an on goal. Look, you are saying that in 2016, end of 2016, 100 units of power, 150 units of power was worth 88 cedis. That was the burden on the Ghanaian people. Today, that same 150 units of power is worth 93 Ghana cedis. What is the difference? The difference is 5 Ghana cedis. It tells you that, assuming what he's saying is to be taken, it tells you that since President Akufo-Addo assumed power or came into power, electricity prices, in terms of how much the Ghanaian people pay for 150 units of power, has gone up by just 5 Ghana cedis. Okay?
That's still an increase, though.
That's still an increase. Nobody is saying there hasn't been an increase. But that is even within the framework of a 0 increase in electricity prices in 2017, a reduction of 22% in 2018, and an increase of 11.17 in 2019. With this, you end up having a nominal increase of 5 Ghana cedis. It tells you that if this had been within the NDC era, where they were increasing electricity prices by 89%, 78%, 59%, Ghanaians would have been buying the same 150 units of power today for about 200 Ghana cedis. That is the difference. Because even the one who has reduced the electricity prices by 22% and increased it by 11% is adding a nominal value of 5%. Then it means that for your period that you were increasing by 89%, 78% and 59%, Ghanaians would have been buying the same 150 units of power. Instead of 93 Ghana cedis today, they'll be buying for like 200 Ghana cedis. That is the difference between the two governments. Nobody is saying that electricity prices have not gone up. Of course, inflation has not stayed the same for the 3-year period. So there has been an increase in the electricity prices. But what is most important is the speed of the increase, the rate at which it increases. And so if this government, upon reducing the prices, not increasing it in 2017, and just increasing it by 11.91% in 2019, is adding a nominal value of 5%, it tells you that during the NDC, if the NDC had been in power, with their skyrocketing rate of increase in electricity prices, we're buying the same 150 units for 200 Ghana cedis. And so they should buy their heads in shame. I didn't expect them to come with this wishy-washy argument to say that the price has gone up by just 5% in 3 years, and so they should complain. Nobody is saying that it's not a burden. It's a burden, but there's a difference between the electricity burden, the cost burden on the Ghanaian people on electricity during the NDC and during this.
All right. Now, I recall in the first year of the NPP government, there was an announcement from President Akufo-Addo of a reduction. And now, of course, the Vice President in his presentation, again, announces it as a success, of the government, that they have managed to reduce tariffs in, you use the term, in nominal terms. Yeah. So should we, once and for all, throw out of the window this concept that PURC is the one that determines prices? Should we just accept for a fact that it's government that is actually pulling the strings in the shadows to determine how much we pay for electricity?
No. PRC is still the body that determines electricity prices. But government has a role all the time. Government plays a very critical role. And that is why anytime there is such announcement of increase in electricity prices, the Ghanaian people please the call to government to intervene. And the experience has shown that governments over the years have managed to intervene in the pricing of electricity on the Ghanaian people. Government also has the responsibility and power to also make sure that some other cost components that feed into the pricing of electricity, like taxes and levies, are adjusted either upwards or downwards. So government at any point in time, government bears the ultimate responsibility. So the PRC is a body set up by government to regulate. That's a regulator. And as and when government ought to make an intervention, government has always made an intervention. It only takes a government that has the will and the wit to manage other sectors of the economy so well that they can look at other areas and beat down the cost burden on the Ghanaian people. Because as we are talking, it is not so easy when you are managing the state coffers to say that this come down, this don't go up, this don't do that. It calls for a broader and comprehensive sense of understanding of the totality of the Ghanaian economy to see how best you are able to leverage your strength in one area to affect the other area positively on the people of this country. So it's always a balance. It's always a balance. And the mix can be made up of so many things, but a prudent government, a government that really thinks about the people, will always have to think far. How best can I alleviate the sufferings of the people? You can't take every suffering of the people away, but how you can bring it down to the level that people can gradually adjust and accommodate and make sure that they are living.
So I guess the point I'm making is, if government is the one that has achieved this, if government is the one that has intervened to bring down these prices, then PURC is not independent. I think that's a
you could
fair
say semi-dependent, because I don't think they have total independence in terms of
when it comes to pricing, because that's our understanding of their act.
Yeah, I think for them, they set up the energy charge, but beyond the energy charge are other levies and stuff that government also has control. Remember when we came in 2017, we reduced things like street lighting levy and those other components of the pricing. Government reduced. Government has the power to go to Parliament to say that reduce this levy by a certain percentage. And even when PURC comes with the energy charge, sometimes government is able to call a meeting, sit down and negotiate. You know, government represents the people. PURC is the regulator. And so when government feels like any other Ghanaian can get up to do, but government can call a meeting, set up a committee, and say, okay, PLC, let's appeal to you. We have looked at the fiscals of government, and we think that if we bring it down to this level, we can also accommodate it within our fiscals and find a way to plug the loopholes. So government at any point in time, it's not a matter of usurping the powers of PURC, of government trying to hold a certain hammer to say that keep quiet, no matter what you do, this is what I say. But it's a dialogue. Government dialogues with them, and always superior arguments may have to reign.
Okay, let's talk about the promises fulfilled and the declaration by the Vice President that this government has fulfilled 78% of the promises made before assuming office. That's a bold claim. But of course, the numbers are broken down in a certain way. Yeah. According to the Vice President's presentation, about 388 promises were made. In terms of those that are completely fulfilled, there were 114, and then there are others that are at various stages of completion. Now, if you were to take the ones that are completely fulfilled, 114, that would actually give you 29% fulfillment. And then you would have to measure the fulfillment, the degrees of fulfillment of all the others in order to determine what the overall would be. So, bearing in mind that some of the promises, for example, one district, one factory, just off the top of my head, bearing in mind the number of districts we have in the country and the number of factories that we have and the number of districts that don't yet have factories, even though you can see that work is being done, even though you can see that factories are being set up, and this is good for those who live in those particular districts, how do you assess that as a promise fulfilled when what you said you would do is still quite far from what you have done so far?
Yeah, Kwajo, so this has been an exercise we've been doing since January 2017. In fact, we started having our manifesto dashboard before the president was sworn in, right from the word go. The vice president tasked, let's have a manifesto dashboard so that we can track our performance. Because we knew that the manifesto was a social contract between us and the Ghanaian people. And we should not, at any point in time, think we can take the Ghanaian people for a ride. So we started tracking our manifestos. And in this exercise, we used three main metrics to measure the performance. The first metric was promises delivered. And here, we include promises for which there is clear, definable life cycle, which we have concluded, and or which, though are recurrent, its initial implementation can be described as delivered. A classical example is the free SHS.
Okay.
The free SHS is recurring, but its initial implementation, that commitment by the president to say that I will let Ghanaian people who want to go to the senior high school go for free, that initial implementation has been delivered. The second metric was promises we are delivering. In that case, they are promises which have begun, we have begun the process to deliver, but delivery is not yet complete. An example is the one district, one factory. That one we have started, but we have not achieved, we have not had every single district in this country having a factory under that particular project. That is the second metric. Then the last metric was promises pending. In that case, we have promises for which the process of implementation has not started at all. And one of such promise is the passage of consumer protection law. So we had these three metrics. And so when we take a particular promise, we assess it, and we have done this, done the draft, presented, reviewed over and over again to make sure that every sector minister, every agency under government that is responsible for the execution of work on that particular project has a firm conviction that this is delivered or delivering or pending. We have not done anything at all. Let me take you through a few of them. If you look at something in agriculture, we say that we will expand local processing of cocoa. What it means is that there was some cocoa processing factories around, and then the promise was made to expand. So in that case, though it could be subjective, if there has been no additional processing factory, then you could say you have delivered. And we have local processing cocoa production that has increased from a certain percentage. I'm trying to get from 20, processing has increased from 27% to 40% currently. So that is a promise that you can say delivered, okay? There are other promises like enact and enforce laws requiring limiting cattle raising to design, fence, and other things. That one we say pending because government has not been able to do that. And another thing that we could say delivering is that accelerate aquaculture and promote extensive fish farming throughout the country. That one we say we haven't delivered, but it is pending because government has started a piloting and initiated a project called Aquaculture for Food, okay? Aquaculture for Food and Jobs. That is under the Planting for Food and Jobs. So that is also a promise we have started delivering, but we have not completed. So we say promise what? That is in the pipeline, that is right. We are delivering. So that is how we did the metrics. And based on that, we combined the ones that we have fully delivered and the ones that we have started but execution is not yet complete together, and we came to the 78%. So out of the 388 promises, 300 of them have either been delivered or we are delivering. Right. And we put the two together because the term for the president has not yet come to an end. It is only when the 4-year mandate has ended that we can concretely say, this is what we have delivered, this is what we started, but we couldn't deliver. In that case, delivery will not even come in. It is either you delivered or you didn't deliver. So at that point, we will come down to just two metrics. Delivered, and then we could not deliver.
Right. I understand your process now. So in terms of the ones that you counted as pending, in fact, I think what we'll do is we'll take a break because I'm told that our time's up for a break. When we come back, we'll get a bit more clarity on your process and understand how you arrive at the 78%, and then we'll dig into a few other things. This is Upfront. We're back after these. Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Gideon Boakong. He's a technical advisor and spokesperson to the Vice President. We're talking about what I like to call the Kumasi Declaration of Success. Vice President gave an update on the performance of the government and rated their fulfillment of promises at 78%. That's what the topic of our discussion at the moment, and we're learning how the grading was done, if you will, and the matrices that you use to arrive at 78%. So what I wanted to ask before the break, when you are determining whether a promise is in the process of being fulfilled or has not been fulfilled at all, what is the threshold? If, for example, you've had a meeting about it, if there's a policy, say you are going to, you gave a good example earlier when you talked about the cattle. Say you've had a meeting about it and planned some actions. Would you count that amongst those that are being fulfilled? Or would you say you've done nothing, so it's not yet been fulfilled?
No, just having a meeting about it, we wouldn't describe it as even delivering. We will only caption it as delivering when there are verifiable evidence of its initiation or progress made. For instance, if we have a meeting about a particular promise and have a discussion on it and we say delivering, and you ask us what shows you are delivering, and then I cite that, oh, 3 days ago we had a meeting about it. Who was in that meeting? That meeting was not public, it was not open to anybody. But perhaps we've had a meeting on it, there has been processes made, maybe there's a bill that has to be taken to Parliament to make sure it is passed before implementation can begin. Maybe that bill is at Cabinet, or it has got into Parliament, waiting to be called for discussion. Then we could say, we are in the process of delivering that. In that case, when people go to Parliament, they can cite the bill that has been presented or whatever act that has been presented to Parliament. But just having stakeholder consultation or meeting about it, I mean, without any verifiable evidence, it will be very dishonest on our part to tell the Ghanaian people that we have started delivering on that when people cannot have any evidence. So, for instance, this aquaculture thing I spoke to you about, the piloting that has started, when people go to the site, they can see there has been a pilot that has been started. There are people working on the pilot project, there are people who can be interviewed, there are things that can be seen. In that case, you have not been able to have it done universally or nationally, but because you have piloted, then you can say you are in the process of delivering. But just having a meeting on it is not enough for it to qualify into the metric of delivering. And so we're very honest. And so if you listen to Imani, I was on this show with Franklin Kujo where he said that he even thinks government is understating most of the things that we have done because the metrics they use is quite different, and they also assigned weights. And I have a problem with that because when you do all of that, you mask the reality of the whole thing. What we did was not to introduce elements of econometrics and weight assigning. In that case, you try to say some part of the economy is more important than the other. It may be a subjective argument or an arguable statement, but there are others who also think that everything ought to be treated equally because what is important to you may not be the same as important as to another person. And so we took the raw data, we counted the promises one by one. This line indicates a promise or a pledge. Have you done it? Have you started executing it or nothing at all? And we were very, very honest. The honesty in this whole exercise, I think, is one big thing that government can be applauded for. A lot of governments will hide even the things that they have not been able to execute and wouldn't want people to know that this one, they haven't done anything about it. But we have come out boldly and clear, and we did not hide this document from Ghana. We presented it to Ghanaians on the website and said that, hey, these are things we haven't touched at all. But these ones, we are delivering or we have delivered, and the composite of that, the totality, comes to 78%. And I think that is unprecedented in our history.
Here's how I'd like us to wrap up. We've got a couple of minutes to go. Do you think Ghanaians feel all the success that is being touted? Do you think Ghanaians feel it when they wake up in the morning? Is the economy you are describing the same as the economy Ghanaians are living?
You see, government can always at any point do what is its best, okay? And that is why the Vice President in his conclusion was very, very clear that what is undeniable is that there has been a remarkable turnaround in the Ghanaian economy over the last 3 years. The difference is one of a vision, dedication, and competence. We have appropriately combined sound economic theory with a collective experience to deliver what we have delivered. Unfortunately, we cannot say that we have solved the problems, all the problems of the Ghanaian people. There are still malaria to be addressed. There are school structures to be built. There are roads to be built. There are hospitals to be built, and all of that. There are a lot of things to be done still. But we believe that we have done enough also to bring down the burden on the Ghanaian people. That is not to suggest that we have alleviated all the sufferings of the people. There are still more to be done, and that is why, because with them we have laid a solid foundation, the president ought to be given a second chance to build on the foundation that he has laid and scale it up to a level that Ghanaians can really, really feel that indeed there has been a remarkable change in their lives.
Dr. Gideon Boakum, the engaging conversation with you proves once again that an hour is never enough. Thank you so much for your time.
You're most welcome, Kojo.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Upfront. We're back next week with even more. Until then, my name is Kojo Yankson. Stay with the station. Up next is Joy News Prime.